This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day, and that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
Business taxes. We're stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on turbotax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
All of the phones are out, and it will be a gold medal for the host nation.
He's up to silver medal. He's gone, and Great Britain have won the gold medal in the boulder and lead. Toby Roberts, the 19-year-old from Surrey, with 155 points, has won gold for Great Britain.
And the young man from Lewisham is going to take the gold medal here. It's going to be an individual gold medal for Alex Yee and Team GB. One gold, 7 medals, and an 8th place finish in the medal table for British athletics at the European Indoor Championships. This is Anything But Footy, the Olympic and Paralympic podcast. We cover the games all the time, rather than just once every 4 years. I'm Michael.
And I'm John, and we'll look back at the action from Apeldoorn and ahead to the World Indoors in China in a fortnight.
And as we record, it's Commonwealth Day, and the rest of the media is finally catching up with what we've been talking about for a while and asking, what is the long-term future of the Commonwealth Games? We will round up all the latest headlines.
Boxing could be back for LA 2028 Olympics.
Michael Weadock's Winter Wonders.
And we're counting down to Milano Cortina with the latest snow and ice news.
Still love that. Cushing's curling conundrums. Something like that we need to come up with for the future. Yes, we've got more Winter Olympics focused podcasts to come in the coming weeks. We're putting together some good stuff for you, so make sure you follow and download. We always love to hear from you as well. Do get in touch, even if it's slightly negative. Maybe pick us up on the tone of a tweet, for example. See what we're about anytime at our website, anythingbutfooty.com. You can always find us on all the social media platforms, and you can read our blogs online as well. Let's start with track and field athletics. Great Britain and Northern Ireland, they ended up then with 7 medals at the European Indoor Athletics Championships. That meant an 8th place finish in the medal table. So a bit down on recent editions. Congratulations, though, to Jeremiah Azu. He was the sole gold medalist, winning in the men's sprint, the 60 metres. Silver medals for George Mills in the men's 3,000, Melissa Courtney Bryant in the women's 3,000, and the women's 4x400 metre relay, although we thought that might have got upgraded to a gold because the Dutch were disqualified from that, but then they put a protest in, bearing in mind it was being held in the Netherlands as well. I'm saying nothing, but then they got the gold again. It was part of a sensational Sunday for the host nation. I think they won 5 gold medals in one afternoon, so pretty good in front of their king as well, who was watching on. Bronze medals for Andrew Robertson in that men's 60 metres. The mixed 4x400 metres relay, which kicked it all off, but seems like an age ago now. And Reve Walcott-Nolan also winning a bronze medal in the women's 1,500 metres. So slightly, as I said, down on previous editions. It was an experimental team in some sort of shape and size. 13 of the athletes were debutants. That's what British Athletics head coach Paula Dunn was at pains to try and point out afterwards. A lot of the big names, of course, not there. The biggest name I would suggest in the team, Georgia Hunter-Bell, we later discovered was suffering from an ear infection, which is why she didn't get on the medal podium as we thought. But yeah, slightly under par as we're heading towards the World Championships and the rest of the indoor season, John.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of describing it. I know that Paula Dunn, the British athletics head coach, has said it's a championship of two halves. The first couple of days were tough. Amber Anning leaving in tears, of course, from the arena after the women's 400 meters. She didn't just touch the line; she virtually ran next door. Let's be brutally honest. It was 4 or 5.
She was in Belgium.
Yes. She was in the.
She was actually on the velodrome bit.
I mean, there are things that you have to focus on when you're running indoors, and there was a lot of talk about the banks, that they were really quite steep because it's a velodrome. Now, of course, you can come up with any excuse for anything to happen, but ultimately, if you're running in lanes, which you have to for the first 200 meters in the indoors, then you've got to stay in that. Now, she only had herself to blame, and she was on really a gold medal top tip, like you said, Georgia Hunter-Bell as well. And I think that is a frustrating thing in those first couple of days, that Amber didn't really achieve what she should have. That does mean, and I've seen it on social media today, she's going to the World Indoors. She's confirmed, I've got unfinished business. I've got to get this sorted out. And of course, as you say as well, that 4x400 meters, I mean, she got cut up. Let's be honest. The Dutch runner ran right in front of her and stopped her from really trying to challenge Femke Bol. And as you say, what a surprise that the host nation were disqualified and then reinstated as well. I mean, that was just plainly, for a lot of people, the wrong decision.
Yeah, and I think Georgia Hunter-Bell actually summed it up very well, and I've exchanged a couple of messages with her over the weekend as well. And what she's basically said is that she and Amber Anning, it goes for Amber Anning as well, they're still relatively new in championship running, which sounds bizarre to say, about someone that's an Olympic medalist and Amber Anning an Olympic finalist, but they're still relatively new in championship running. So what they have to do is use this as a bit of a learning experience, and they have to use it as a motivational experience. So Georgia Hunter-Bell referenced the fact that in Glasgow last year at the World Indoors, she finished 4th, and she then used that to fuel the fire to go on and win that Olympic medal and win a medal at the European Championships. It didn't work out for either Amber Anning or Georgia Hunter-Bell at these championships, but if it's not going to work out at any of the championships they compete in their career, the European Indoors is probably the one that you would choose, because we've got the World Indoors coming up, as we know, and then we've also got World Outdoors coming up at the end of the season as well. And those will be the ones where, if they get on the podium there, if they win gold medals, silver medals, bronze medals there, no one's going to be talking about what happened in Apeldoorn.
I thought it was great to see, you mentioned newbies maybe struggling slightly with a bit of lack of experience, but it was amazing to see Andrew Robertson win a bronze medal. He's been around for a long time, never really done it, and that's 60 meters. Let's be honest, Jeremiah Razou, that's the blue ribboned event. That's the gold medal you want to win at a European Indoors, and Britain back on the top of the podium with some great names, of course, Jason Gardner, Linford Christie, Dwayne Chambers, all the likes of those.
Richard Kilty.
That we all remember, and it's great that Jeremiah Razou is there, having just become a father as well. So that was a great story. The same with Ravi Walcott-Nolan as well. She's 30 years of age, and she's got that bronze medal. And we expected Georgia Hunter-Bell. She denied Georgia that medal, but it's good to see that there is some other talent coming through or getting the opportunity, and that's what I wanted to highlight just on this as well. There was a lot of talk about, and there's been a bit of talk about social media this morning about Morgan Lake and Scott Lincoln. Now, look, Scott Lincoln is the skipper of the team, and he was in the shot put, and he had his best ever finish at Europe, and he finished 4th. Now he's frustrated with that, but he's taken himself away over the winter, and he's gone to Australia, and he's worked as a brickie. He's not funded, but he's still doing it for Great Britain, and he's 19-time British champion, I think, isn't he? Looking back on the stats. So actually, you look at that 4th place, and you go, great, well done, Scott. Morgan Lake, she is funded, and she was 5th in the high jump. And that, for me, is the difference. Now, she has said on social media, I can't, it's not my issue of that other people are better than me. And I have to just do my best. But I think what we all expected her to do was leap more than 192. And even she said that she thought she had to get more than 192 to get a medal. So again, there are the question marks about funding. And I think that's what people get frustrated about slightly. Also, I thought Jade O'Dowd, what a great performance. I think it was 4 personal bests, maybe even 5 personal bests in the pentathlon. You want to see these new people coming through with new names. And just one other thought on the British, not on the British team, but on the world team. I think these championships, you're right, these are the ones where you can make mistakes. But isn't it fantastic to see Jakob Ingebrigtsen coming to these championships, an Olympic champion, a world champion,
And Femke Bol.
And win these titles? Where's Josh Kerr? Where's Dina Asher-Smith? Where are the people who are going to go and compete for the Grand Slam tour that Michael Johnson's banging on about? Yeah, we all know that we need new ideas for athletics, and we're going to wait and see how this pans out. But I don't think necessarily that is the answer right down the end of the road. We need to see how it goes, and I know a lot of people are waiting to see how it goes. But ultimately, athletics is about winning championships and winning medals. And I thought it was amazing to see Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Sarah Healy winning Ireland's first ever 3,000 metre gold, of course, denying Melissa Courtney Bryant that gold medal. And as you say, 5 golds on the final day for the Netherlands as well.
Yeah.
A great tournament. They put on an amazing event. And I thought, again, in a velodrome, hey, we've got loads of velodromes in this country. Has anyone thought about putting athletics track in there before?
And I was thinking about, your conversation, the conversation that we had about the fact that the British Indoor Athletics Championships were taking place the same weekend as the British Track Cycling Championships. Here we had a venue where could you not do them together? Could you not have had the cycling happening on the velodrome and then the athletics happening in the track? I know there'd be an issue about, the infield and where you'd put the bikes and everything else, but with a bit of imagination at the Emirates Arena and the Chris Hoy Velodrome, you could bring those events together, could you not? And have a terrific couple of days of British indoor athletics and British track cycling. Serious point, I'm with you. I want to see our top athletes racing. I want to see our top athletes racing in championships. I want to see them winning medals. And I just don't quite, and I'm not an athlete and I'm not a coach, and ask Josh Kerr, ask Dina Asher-Smith why they weren't there. They will have perfectly reasonable explanations. They know more than us about what their bodies can and can't do. There was a big discussion over the weekend about Femke Bol. Maybe she didn't come up in the individual event in Paris at the Olympic Games because she'd run in a mixed relay and a relay. And I get that. But at the end of your career, you want to look on the wall and look at what medals you've got there. And I just wonder whether the European Indoor Championships for some of our athletes represents a great opportunity to win a medal, and it's a shame that they're not there, but they will have their reasons.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point.
Michael Weadock's Winter Wonders.
So let's turn our attention to what's been happening on the snow and ice, and we'll begin with the first ever British 1-2 at the World Skeleton and Bobsleigh Championships. The skeleton performance is absolutely fantastic. History made in Lake Placid. First World Championship medal for Marcus Wyatt, and a second World Championship gold medal for Matt Weston as well. So absolutely fantastic there. And then staying with that, Matt Weston and Tabby Sturka picked up the team silver medal to conclude a brilliant World Championships for the skeleton team in Lake Placid. So well done to those guys. It was as well a terrific few days on the snow as well. And just to bring you up to date with what has been happening as far as GB snow sport is concerned, a remarkable few days for the British athletes on the world stage. Charlotte Banks continues to dominate on the snowboard cross circuit. She claimed a 5th consecutive gold medal in Georgia. Now, the FAS Telemark World Cup skiing event. Now, Telemark is a type of skiing, a sort of combination type of skiing. Jasmine Taylor had a phenomenal few days, earning a silver and then back-to-back gold medals as well. Pretty inspiring performance, especially as we were celebrating women across the weekend, weren't we? Andrew Musgrave delivered Great Britain's best individual cross-country world championship result since 2017, finishing in an impressive 6th place. And Scott Mina secured a brilliant 4th place finish in the Para-Nordic World Cup as well. So some terrific results there on the ice and again on the snow. This is Anything But Footy, the Olympic and Paralympic podcast. It's exactly 500 days to the next Commonwealth Games. Glasgow 2026 just around the corner. We'll talk Commonwealth Games next.
So good, so good, so good.
New markdowns up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Fresh kicks, spring tops, new dresses. There's always a score.
I mean, the denim section is unreal.
Why do I rack? All the dresses.
I always find something amazing.
Head to your Nordstrom Rack store to find can't-miss deals on all the spring things. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
This is Anything But Footy, and it is Commonwealth Day, Michael.
Happy Commonwealth Day. I mean,
Happy Commonwealth Day.
Card in the shop. Personally,
no, there's already Easter cards, but not
Dame Laura Kenny will be furious that there were no Commonwealth Day cards in the shops.
Yes, indeed.
Now, it's in the headlines for various reasons. We're not going to get into what Donald Trump has been saying or doing. Lots of debate about the future of the Commonwealth Games. It's something we have discussed many times over the past few months, over the past year or so here on the podcast. The rest of the media now are beginning to catch up with some of the discussions as well, because Commonwealth Day is a big focus day. It's also 500 days to go to Glasgow 2026. That will be the new look, the newly revamped, the newly reduced, the new footprint for the Games. Importantly, though, they are happening. And I mentioned Dame Laura Kenny and the lack of cards in Clinton's for Commonwealth Day. I mention her because she's been appointed as the new president of Commonwealth Games England. The Olympic, European and Commonwealth track cycling champion has said, after a period of uncertainty, this is a really exciting time for Team England. No time to lose in the build-up to 2026. I'm excited to get involved, and I hope John Cushing puts that picture of me and him that Michael took in Glasgow in 2014 when I was representing Team England, that he has on the wall of his office on social media sometime soon. Might have made a bit of that quote up.
Slightly, but I remember obviously interviewing her in 2014. She was a new Olympic champion by that point, having, of course, shot to fame with those gold medals she won at London 2012. And one of the best memories of covering the Commonwealth Games was that championship. She talked about Glasgow 2014, actually, as part of her media work for this Commonwealth Games president announcement. And I think what she's saying is, we had to have this happen, these games, as they are going to, and you can listen back to our podcast about how they're going to work and be, as Michael said, revamped and reduced. But she said, we have to now find the next venue for 2030. It's 100 years. It would be a shame that this doesn't happen. But she did say, if this Glasgow wasn't happening, then the Commonwealth Games would have ended. She agreed with what we've been saying. And look, the big announcement today from the Commonwealth Games Federation, one of them anyway, is that it's changing its public brand. So we've had World Athletics, World Aquatics, Paddle UK, Aquatics GB, Team GB. We now have Commonwealth Sport. The Commonwealth Games Federation has changed its branding to Commonwealth Sport, and they say it will signify the organisation's transition from a sports federation to a sports movement. I think also what they need to be doing within the next year is announcing the venue for 2030, because if they haven't done that by the time Glasgow happens in a year's time, the whole debate will dominate the sporting action.
Yeah, they really need to get that host locked in as well, because as we know, and we've seen more than once, we've seen cities and regions pull out. We saw Victoria pull out. We've seen Durban pull out. So they really need to get someone locked in legally and everything else to ensure that we don't get into that situation again. And Dame Laura, if you want to be a future guest on Great British Bosses, our sister podcast from Anything But Footy, we would love to spend half an hour picking your brains about the future of the Commonwealth Games and Team England's participation in it. The first ever Kings Baton relay has been launched at Buckingham Palace as part of the celebrations. His Majesty the King, patron of Commonwealth sport, has placed his message to the Commonwealth into the first baton, and he's passed it on to the first baton bearer, which is Sir Chris Hoy. Commonwealth Sport says the new relay is reimagined for the new era. There will be no formal handovers. It won't be costly. It will be sustainable as well. There'll be no massive polluting travel costs or anything else in terms of the carbon footprint for it.
Yeah, you mentioned the first baton. So effectively what they're doing is each of the 74 Commonwealth nations and territories will receive their own baton, which is being crafted in Glasgow. So again, hopefully some work coming out of that for some locals in Glasgow, which will be beneficial for staging these games. But each nation will then be able to decorate and brand the baton baton as they wish. And the 18th official baton relay, you mentioned it's the first, of course, King's Baton. It's always been the Queen's previously. And actually, to Chris Hoy, I remember in 2014, I was up Buckingham Palace when he was handed it by the Queen back 12 years ago. And here he is, glad to say, still fighting the fight. We know, of course, that he is fighting what he's going through with his illness and long-term sickness, unfortunately. But it's great to see that he is still there, still representing Team Scotland, still representing the Commonwealths, and why it was important for him. So great that he was the first baton bearer, but these batons will go all around each of the different territories. But I was like, well, how is he going to, if he's written a message in one, where does that go? But I did get the answer. They will be keeping that baton Glasgow, and that will be read out at the opening ceremony, the message from the King to all of the athletes at this opening ceremony, which of course we're looking forward to, Michael. We know it's happening, but we don't know any more details than that at the official start of the Commonwealth Games in 500 days' time.
I hope it's easier to open than the one at Glasgow 2014. Do you remember Chris
Hoy
and the Queen wrestling between them, trying to get the thing open? It was one of those awkward moments. It was sort of Glasgow's equivalent of when Cathy Freeman lit the Olympic torch in Sydney, and she was meant to come up through the fiery waterfall. And the mechanism that she was standing on didn't work for ages and ages and ages. And everyone was wondering how she was going to be able to light that Olympic torch. And then in Glasgow, we were all in Hampden for it, weren't we?
Yeah.
And they couldn't open it to do the Queen's speech. I think Chris Hoy eventually had to use his big arms, and he eventually got it open, and the Queen was able to read the message. Yeah, hopefully we will see Chris Hoy as part of that opening ceremony. I'm sure he'll be part of that opening ceremony in Glasgow in 2026.
Need to just quickly bring you up to date with world boxing, because that was the big news a couple of weeks ago that the International Olympic Committee have said they are going to give provisional recognition as the International Federation to world boxing, moving away from the IBA, of course, which was stripped in 2019 for frankly being incompetent, but also probably corrupt as well. And if you looked at the results of Rio 2016 in the boxing matches, Michael and I were there, they were very, very strange and very, very dodgy decisions going on there. So the IBA was stripped from the IOC in 2019. And as we know, the Olympics has been staging Olympics boxing in Tokyo and Paris itself, but they've said they're not going to do it anymore. And so it's not at the moment in the LA Games. But what the IOC have now said is that world boxing they're going to look at them and they could become the international federation. Now, world boxing is a group of like-minded individuals from national federations like the Netherlands. Boris van der Vorst is the president, Canadian and British vice presidents as well. And they've said, we can do this. We can deliver Olympic boxing. And I think what's really important about this, Michael, is if at the weekend we saw Lauren Price victorious at the Royal Albert Hall in an all-female card taking place. 7 of the boxers on that card were former GB boxing representatives. 5 of them went to the Olympics as well, including Cindy Ngamba, who of course was the first refugee team medal ever in Paris as she trains in Sheffield. We saw, of course, Lauren Price victorious. She was a gold medalist as well in Tokyo, and she, of course, is actually one of the big backers of world boxing as well. So great to see that is moving forward. When will the decision be made? Now, that's the big question mark. 35 sports at LA. That's 5 more, I think 3 more than Paris had 32. So this would be 36 if boxing comes in. But I'm told it's nothing to do with Trump, who you mentioned earlier on in the podcast, nothing to do with LA. It will be the IOC making that decision. So they will be looking at world boxing and making sure that they are following all the rules and regulations that they've set up themselves. And maybe part of that decision will be the Liverpool World Championships, which take place in September. Tickets have gone on sale, by the way, today for that on Commonwealth Day, because, of course, Commonwealth is also, the boxing also needs to come into the Commonwealth Games. So World Boxing will be looking maybe at running that as well. We'll have to wait and see on those ones. But quite a big change potentially for LA that boxing could be back, although it's never been away, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Ian Reid told us, didn't he, the vice chair of Glasgow 2026, that the Commonwealth Games will follow the lead of the IOC, because when they released their medal programme for the Commonwealth Games for Glasgow, everything was there except boxing that was TBC. They're hoping to have it in, but they will see what the IOC are deciding. So, yeah, there's lots of decisions from our point of view in terms of Olympic Games and then Commonwealth Games as to what will happen. So we'll watch that one. We'll be watching as well the race for the presidency for the IOC. It will be one of the first things in the inbox for the new IOC president, what to do with boxing. John will be right across that for you, of course, on our social media platforms. All the posts will be there. Just search for Anything But Footy. You can read our latest blogs. They're on our website right now, anythingbutfooty.com.
Including the one on the IOC presidential candidates. There are 7. You can find out all about them. I finally finished that blog. It is there. It is Olympic Decision Day.
Yep, you can sit and read that while listening to Free From Desire, the Paris 2024 anthem, which is part of our Spotify Olympics music playlist. You can listen out for that one. Do stay with us. We are Anything But Footy, moving on to Milan and looking ahead to LA.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.